dad.
Rock and roll!
Keyboard Nerd Cubed has the floor.
Ozzy frickin' Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, the one who made heavy metal, or to most people, the guy who ate a bat on stage. The people who only know him for that clearly don't know his legendary status as the one who made Crazy Train, Mr. Crowley, or even brought along Zakk frickin' Wylde before he founded Black Label Society. People really need to keep in mind that Ozzy Osbourne had almost everything in the palm of his hand, and a TV show back in the early 2000s. But first, let's dive back into the history of Ozzy before we get to the main feature presentation. So our story begins in the 60s. Groovy. At this time, Deep Purple, the guys who later made a song talking about smoke on the water, and the Rolling Stones were still prevalent, as in 65. I think it was 65 anyways. They released Paint It Black off of Aftermath. Anyways, Black Sabbath was founded by John Osbourne, Ozzy, Tommy Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward, after their previous failed band Mythology. The reason for the name Black Sabbath, according to the Wikipedia page, states that across the street at the time was a cinema showing of the movie Black Sabbath featuring Boris Karloff. But anyways, in 1968 they released their first album, aptly named Black Sabbath, and according to the Wikipedia page again, it states that it was recorded in one day. Interesting. But let's get to the more interesting part, ladies and gentlemen. The magnum opus to Black Sabbath's discography. This album was released on Friday the 13th. Jason must have liked this album, and it was a massive success, with hits such as Paranoid, War Pigs, and Iron Man. People were gathered in their masses, alright. This album was what defines heavy metal. Seriously, you get people who are in their 60s or 70s, and they still listen to this. No Steve Miller, no Boston, no Deep Purple, just pure, uncut, raw heavy metal at its peak. These songs were also included in rhythm games such as Guitar Hero and Rock Band later on. The 70s were great for Black Sabbath. However, Ozzy started to drink and do drugs, and that's when things started going down. And then up again, surprisingly. Well, here we enter the 80s, home of Twisted Sister, Joan Jett, The Vapors, A Flock of Seagulls, Warrant, first album, and many more. So after Ozzy left the band to pursue other projects, Black Sabbath hired another vocalist. And during the making of Ozzy's first album, he gathered the one and only Randy Rhoads, more on that later. And then they decided to make The Blizzard of Oz. This album, when it was released in September of 1980 and March of 1981, both UK and US respectively, it was a big success, as it ranked 9th on the Rolling Stones list of 100 greatest metal albums of all time. And it shows. The hits included Mr. Crowley, which talks about the cult leader Aleister Crowley, and Crazy Train, which has appeared in over 100 pieces of media and commercials and campaigns since its release. I'm just guessing. Of course, things were starting to go great and bad for Ozzy later on, such as Randy Rhoads dying in a plane crash in '82, later marrying Sharon, having kids, and of course getting rid of his addiction to anything imaginable. And now for our feature presentation. I forgot to mention that back in the 80s, MTV was the source for anything metal, pop, rock, electronica, rap, and so on. But in the early 2000s, as Warrant, Alien Ant Farm, Pantera, Limp Bizkit, Korn, and Rob Zombie and so on became famous, well, Ozzy has not made a single album. I mean, back in the 90s he rejoined Black Sabbath several times and made several albums with them, and Ozfest, but then the magnum opus of MTV would be upon us, as this is what most people remember the most. The Osbournes, probably. The Osbournes aired back in 2002 and had gained... Actually, I cannot find anything on the Wikipedia page, but I'm assuming it's a lot. Mostly because who does not like Ozzy? According to Loudwire.com, this guy once snorted a row of ants up his nose from a wooden stick. And many more things. This guy is lovable and awesome. Well, in the Osbournes, it follows Jack, Kelly, Sharon, and Ozzy. It's basically the misadventures of Ozzy and co. going to different places. For example, he goes to New York, he plays at a show, he goes to Jay Leno's show to play Down to Earth, which at the time was from his new album, and so on. It is really great. Ozzy does a lot of crazy stuff throughout season 1. I mean, just look at the trailer. I'm not going to show it in full because I do not want YouTube or people to flag the damn video.
I love you more than life itself. You're all f***ing mad.
The Osbournes was a very successful TV show. It ran from 2002 to 2005, which during this time music and media was starting to evolve and MTV would slowly turn to more things before becoming a place where there is no Total Request live and no music videos. And even music videos that involved using video game assets to mimic the dancers in actual video. I am pretty sure that people only know the Osbournes for the fact that Ozzy threw something through the neighbor's window, as seen on loudwire.com. Or dress up as a woman for that matter. Ozzy is a crazy guy and is a great heavy metal artist. I think now Kelly has a kid, Jack has his own show, and now a new Osbourne show has appeared on the Travel Network. Though, I bet it probably won't reach the level of success as it did back in the early 2000s. The Osbournes is a great TV show, very funny at times, and delves deep into what Ozzy does for a living. If you see this at a thrift store, buy it. You won't regret it. Little bit of a side note. It has been 2 weeks since I last made a video. I was making the original draft of the Osbournes TV show review. Well, it's not really a review, mostly going into the life of Ozzy. The original draft that I made was last week, though as of Monday, November 9th, I decided to add in a new opening and some more and less footage. Sorry, I hesitated, I don't know why. Also, I edited some of the script to make more and more sense. If it doesn't make sense, let me know, guys. So sorry for the delay. I left the original completely unused. I think I might work on a Riddle School 3 review next. I don't know. Please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it.